Turn this off if someone's texting you back right now. If your calendar's full of people who actually want you there. If you feel connected, valued, like you belong somewhere. This wasn't made for the comfortable. This was built for the ones sitting in the dark at 3 in the morning, wondering when exactly they became invisible to everyone who used to see them. You know the moment I'm talking about. That specific moment. Friday night. Your phone on the table. Screen black. You pick it up anyway, knowing there's nothing there, but checking because the silence has become its own kind of presence. Its own kind of weight. The invitation stopped coming 6 months ago. You noticed. God, did you notice? But you told yourself it didn't matter. You told yourself you were fine. But here you are, alone. Again. Wondering what died inside you that made everyone else drift away like smoke. Here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. That hollow ache that lives somewhere between your chest and your throat. That sense of being fundamentally separate from the human experience everyone else seems to navigate so easily. That feeling isn't the problem. It's the diagnosis. And what it's diagnosing isn't your weakness. It's everyone else's cage. A cage you no longer fit inside. Not because you're broken, but because some of us were never built for captivity. The drug they call belonging. Let me show you the mechanism, how the system actually works. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you can't go back to sleep. This is the point of no return. If you're not ready for that, close this now. Go back to your comfortable delusions. Because what comes next will ruin you for normalcy forever. Human beings organize themselves in pyramids, hierarchies, power structures. This isn't culture, this isn't society, this is biology. This is how primates work. And the pyramid has a secret it protects with everything it has. It only functions if most people stay at the bottom. So the system creates a drug to keep them there. It's called belonging, validation, being liked, being included, being part of something. And like any drug that's designed to control rather than heal, it has 3 characteristics that make it perfect for mass administration. First, it feels necessary. You genuinely believe you'll die without it. Not metaphorically, literally. The fear isn't rational, but it's real. The panic that sets in when you're alone isn't weakness, it's withdrawal. Your nervous system was trained, from birth, to need the presence of others the way you need oxygen. Every time you were left alone as a child and cried, every time you were excluded and it hurt, every time you were included and it felt like relief, you were being wired, conditioned, programmed to associate solitude with danger and belonging with safety. Second, it's dispensed by others. They control the supply. You're always dependent. Your mood, your self-worth, your sense of reality, your definition of yourself. All of it is calibrated by whether or not they text back, whether or not they invite you, whether or not they validate your existence with their attention. You wake up and check if anyone engaged with what you posted. You go through your day, monitoring their reactions to you. You fall asleep replaying conversations, analyzing whether you said the right thing, whether they still like you, whether you're still safe. You don't have a self. You have a reflection, and the mirror is always in their hands. Third, the more you consume it, the more you need it. The validation addict becomes more desperate with every hit. It's not like food where you eat and you're satisfied. It's like salt water. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of the pyramid. Because addicts don't study the drug. They just beg for another hit. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. You check your phone more. You perform harder. You make yourself smaller. You apologize more. You need more proof, more often, that you're allowed to exist. Most people spend their entire lives chasing this drug. They call it networking. They call it relationship building. They call it being social. They call it community. What they actually are is controlled. Because here's the trick that makes the whole system work. The trick Machiavelli understood better than anyone. As long as you need their approval, they own you. Your decisions aren't yours. They're calculated to maintain the supply. Your thoughts aren't yours. They're calibrated to what's acceptable. Your self-worth isn't yours. It's a loan they can call in anytime. Your entire operating system is running on their infrastructure. You become predictable, Manageable, safe, controllable, and predictable people don't rise. They serve. Machiavelli wrote in letters that never made it into the prints, letters to friends where he was being honest instead of strategic. Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. The necessity he's talking about, that's your need for approval, your need to belong, your need to be liked, and the deception. That's the belief that you need it to survive. That's the lie that keeps the pyramid stable. That's the drug that keeps you manageable. The performance you mistook for life. You've been performing, not living. Performing. Let me describe what that looked like, what that felt like, so you know I see you. So you know I understand. You bent yourself into shapes that hurt just to fit. You laughed at jokes that insulted your intelligence. You nodded through conversations that made you want to tear your skin off from boredom. You pretended to care about things you didn't care about. You adopted opinions that weren't yours. You texted first. Always first. You apologized for existing, for taking up space, for having needs. You made yourself smaller, quieter, more convenient, more digestible, more palatable. You sanded down every edge that made you you until you were smooth enough not to catch on anything. And they still left, not slowly, not gradually, but all at once like they'd been waiting for permission. One day you were in the group chat. The next day the messages kept coming, but nobody was talking to you. One day you were getting invited. The next day you just weren't. And nobody said anything. Nobody explained. They just moved on. Like you were furniture they didn't need anymore. You know what the worst part is? You blamed yourself. You went through every interaction, every text, every word you said, looking for the moment you ruined it. The moment you became too much or not enough. The moment you failed the test you didn't know you were taking. But there was no moment. Because it wasn't about you. It was never about you. You weren't playing a game you could win. You were playing a game designed for you to lose. A game where the price of admission is your authenticity. Where the cost of belonging is yourself. Where the only way to stay in is to keep cutting pieces off until there's nothing left but the performance. Most people never figure this out. They stay trapped in the performance until it kills them. They die surrounded by people who never actually knew them, having spent every single day of their lives auditioning for an audience that never really cared. They mistake activity for connection, noise for meaning, presence for intimacy. But you got eliminated, rejected, excluded, left behind, and now you're here, alone, terrified, wondering if this is all there is. If this is your life now. If you'll always be the one watching everyone else live while you just exist. That terror, that's not weakness. That's the beginning of wisdom. Balthazar Gracian wrote in 1647, "The wise does at once what the fool does at last." The fool spends decades chasing approval, finally understands it was worthless, and dies with the knowledge. The wise one stops the first time they realize the cost. You're being given a choice right now that most people never get. You can either spend the rest of your life trying to get back into that cage, or you can understand why you were never supposed to be in there in the first place. One path leads back to slavery, the other leads forward to sovereignty. Most people choose slavery, because sovereignty is terrifying. The withdrawal. Nobody warns you about. When the supply gets cut off, when you get rejected, when you're suddenly alone, you have two options. Only two. There is no third way. Most people panic. They scramble. They try to get back into the group by any means necessary. They debase themselves. They over-apologize. They become even more desperate, more performative, more pathetic. They send the text they know they shouldn't send. They show up where they know they're not wanted. They perform harder, louder, smaller, more convenient. They offer more, ask for less, need more desperately than ever before. They spend years, sometimes decades, trying to get back in. They never do. Or if they do, they get in at such a reduced status with so much less dignity that the victory is more humiliating than the exclusion. They just become more bitter, more resentful, more desperate. They check social media to see who's hanging out without them. They craft elaborate fantasies of revenge or reconciliation. They stay frozen in the moment of rejection, unable to move forward, unable to let go, just suffering in the space between what they had and what they'll never have again. This is psychological purgatory. Most people die here. They spend the rest of their lives neither in nor out, neither moving forward nor moving back, just bleeding. Just slowly turning into exactly what rejected them. Bitter, small, diminished. But there's another way, a darker way, a way that requires you to do something most people can't do. Accept the withdrawal. Sit in the discomfort. Let the loneliness burn through you like a fever, like an infection your body is fighting, like poison working its way out of your system. You don't run from it. You don't medicate it. You don't try to replace it with new people who'll eventually leave too. You don't scroll. You don't numb. You don't distract. You just sit with it. I want you to know, when you sit with it long enough, when you let it burn all the way through without running, something happens. The need passes, not the loneliness. The need. The loneliness might stay, but the need for it to go away, that disappears. And when the need disappears, when you're no longer desperate for rescue, when you're no longer waiting for someone to come save you from yourself, you discover something they built the entire system to prevent you from discovering. You don't actually need them. The need wasn't real. It was installed. Like software. Like an operating system you never chose but learned to run on anyway. And once you see that it was installed, once you really understand that the desperation isn't your nature but your programming, you can uninstall it. And when you uninstall it, when you remove the code that made you controllable, you become dangerous. The transformation nobody talks about. Machiavelli spent years in forced exile after the Medici returned to power. They tortured him, broke him, left him with nothing. And in that nothing, in that isolation, in that enforced solitude, he wrote The Prince. He wrote the discourses. He wrote the analysis of power that would influence centuries. He didn't do that despite the isolation. He did it because of it. There's a transformation that happens when you stop running from the silence. When you stop treating solitude as punishment and start treating it as position. Strategic position. Geographic advantage. Operational territory. The noise. The constant need to manage relationships, to navigate social dynamics, to maintain your image, to perform your personality, to calibrate every action for maximum approval. It was taking up 90% of your cognitive capacity, and now that it's gone, you have access to yourself in a way you never did before. You start thinking clearly, planning without distraction, building without interference, moving without consensus. You start using the silence, not enduring it, using it. You build things, skills, projects, bodies of work. You read without interruption. You think without someone else's voice in your head telling you what to think. You make decisions based on function, not on what will make you likable. You execute without asking permission. You fail without an audience. You succeed without needing to share it. Solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's the presence of focus. And focus, uninterrupted focus, sustained over time without the constant drag of social maintenance. That's where power gets built. That's where dangerous things get created. That's where you discover what you actually are when no one's watching. What you discover might surprise you. You're not broken. You're just different. Built for something else. Optimized for a game most people don't even know they're playing. Designed for objectives they can't even see. You stop apologizing for your nature. You stop seeking permission. You stop asking if it's okay. You act. You execute. You build. You take territory. And when people notice, they come to you. But now you're different. Now you're selective. Ruthlessly selective. Because you've tasted freedom and you're not going back into that cage for anyone. You don't need them. You'll work with them when it serves your aims. You'll be warm when it's useful. You'll be cold when it's necessary. But you don't need them. The wolf doesn't grieve when the sheep exclude him. He was never supposed to run with them anyway. He's not better than them. He's just different, operating on different principles, playing a different game. And now that he knows that, now that he's accepted it, now that he's stopped trying to be something he's not, he's untouchable. Machiavelli again from The Prince. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But what he really meant, what he was really saying underneath the political advice is this: it is better to be self-sufficient than dependent, even if self-sufficiency costs you the comfort of being liked. People start to find you unsettling. You don't perform anymore. You don't seek approval. You're kind when you choose to be, and cold when you need to be, and they can't manipulate you because they can't figure out what you want. That's the point. Unpredictability is power. Autonomy is sovereignty. Self-sufficiency is freedom. The final evolution. There's a place beyond all of this. A place where you understand that connection is a tool, not a need. Where you've transcended the binary. Where you're not isolated and you're not dependent. Where you're something else entirely. Something most people can't even conceptualize. You form alliances based on function, not feeling. You build networks based on capability, not comfort. You can be warm when it serves the objective. You can be cold when it protects the structure. You can connect deeply when useful. You can disconnect completely when necessary. People think you're sociable. They think you're connected. They think you're one of them. They have no idea that you're operating from a completely different paradigm. You're not in the game of being liked. You're in the game of building something that matters, something that lasts, something that changes the landscape. And you use relationships the way an architect uses materials, strategically, structurally, with full understanding of load-bearing capacity. You know which connections support weight, which ones are decorative, which ones are temporary, which ones are foundational. You can be surrounded by people and still be fundamentally alone. And you can be fundamentally alone and still command armies. Connection and solitude aren't opposites, they're tools, and you use the right tool for the right job. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him, not the men he likes, not the men he's friends with, the men he has around him, the men he uses, the men who serve his vision. Connection without need is power. Need without connection is slavery. And if you go deep enough, if you stay in the isolation long enough, if you build in the silence long enough, you reach something even beyond that, a place of complete autonomy, total sovereignty, absolute self-containment. You've spent so much time alone, so much time in the silence, so much time building in solitude, that you've constructed a cathedral inside yourself. A vast internal architecture that doesn't need anything external to be complete. And from that cathedral, from that completeness, from that wholeness, you create, you lead, you dominate. Not through force, not through manipulation, through presence, through the gravitational pull that comes from being genuinely self-sufficient in a world of desperate dependence. You look empty to them, incomprehensible, untouchable. They can't read you because there's nothing to read. No need they can exploit, no wound they can press, no lever they can pull, no button they can push. You're not reacting anymore. You're acting. You're not responding. You're initiating. They think you're cold. You're not cold. You're just not burning yourself to keep them warm anymore. They think you're distant. You're not distant. You're just not close in the way they need to control you. They think you don't care. You care deeply. You just don't need their approval of your caring. You're not playing their game anymore. You're not even on their board. You've transcended the entire structure. And from outside the structure you can see it clearly for what it is. A cage for people who are afraid of freedom. Gracian wrote in 1647, "Make yourself necessary and you will always be valued." But there's a deeper truth underneath that truth. Make yourself unnecessary and you become irreplaceable. Because the person who needs nothing is the person everyone needs. The protocol. So how do you get there? How do you make the crossing from slave to sovereign, from dependent to autonomous, from performer to operator? 30 days, no negotiation, no exceptions, no excuses. Week 1. The amputation cut all non-essential social contact. I don't mean become a hermit. I don't mean delete everyone. I mean stop reaching out first. Stop texting to check in. Stop maintaining relationships that only exist because you maintain them. Stop performing friendship. Stop being the glue. Let them fall away. It will hurt. That's the point. That's how you know you're cutting deep enough. No social media consumption. None. Not just 5 minutes. Not just to check. Not just to see what they're doing. None. Delete the apps if you have to. The infinite scroll is designed to give you the illusion of connection while slowly hollowing you out. It's engineered addiction. Treat it like any other addiction. Complete abstinence. Use the silence to notice what voice is actually yours versus what voice is the internalized expectation of others. Most of what you think is your thoughts is actually their thoughts in your voice. Start separating them. Write down the difference. Document the discovery. Week 2. The construction. Choose one thing to build, one skill, one project, one aspect of your body or your mind or your work or your art, something that requires focus, something that can't be done in stolen moments between distractions, something that demands your full capacity. Spend at least 2 hours a day, every single day, building it. In complete silence. No music, no podcasts, no background noise, no companions. Just you and the work, just you and the thing you're creating, just you and your own mind. Document what happens when you stop performing. Write it down, not for anyone else, not for social media, for you. So you can see the transformation in real time. So you can track the shift. So you can prove to yourself that you're changing. Week 3. The recalibration. Your nervous system is going to fight you. This is when most people quit. You're going to have moments of panic, moments where you're convinced you're missing out, moments where the loneliness feels like it's crushing you, moments where you want to reach out, to check in, to make sure they still remember you exist. Don't run. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Understand that what you're feeling isn't danger, it's withdrawal. Your addiction to approval is dying. And like any addiction, like any parasite being removed, it's going to scream at you to feed it one more time. Just one more hit. Just one more text. Just one more check. Don't feed it. Let it starve. Let it die. This is where you win or lose. Week 4. The emergence. By week 4, something will have shifted. You'll notice it in small ways first. You'll check your phone less. You'll care less about what they're doing. You'll have more mental bandwidth, more clarity, more energy, more capacity, more presence. You'll start to feel something you haven't felt in years, maybe ever. Sovereignty. The sense that your existence doesn't require external validation, that you're complete without needing anyone to confirm it, that you're real even when no one's watching. That's when you'll understand what this whole thing was about. It wasn't about becoming isolated. It wasn't about rejecting people. It wasn't about being cold or disconnected. It was about becoming free, free from need, free from dependence, free from the constant performance, free to choose connection rather than desperately need it. The choice. So here's your choice. The only choice that matters. You can treat this like every other video you consumed this week. Feel something for 20 minutes. Get a little boost. Then go right back to checking if anyone texted. Go right back to wondering why you're still alone. Go right back to the same patterns, the same behaviors, the same addictions that got you here. Go right back to the cage. Or, you can accept what you've just seen. That your loneliness isn't a bug in your programming. It's a feature. That being alone isn't punishment, it's preparation. That the silence you've been running from is actually the territory where power gets built, where sovereignty gets forged, where dangerous people become untouchable. But I need to be straight with you about something. This isn't for everyone. Most people who hear this will do nothing. They'll feel moved for an hour, maybe a day. Then they'll go right back to the addiction, right back to performing, right back to the cage. Because the cage is comfortable, the cage is familiar, the cage is what they know. And that's fine. Not everyone is supposed to wake up. Not everyone is supposed to leave. Not everyone is supposed to become what they're capable of becoming. Some people are meant to stay asleep. Some people are meant to serve. Some people are meant to remain in the pyramid, providing the foundation that holds up the ones who climbed out. But you're still here. You read this far. You felt something shift. You recognized yourself in these words. You saw the cage for the first time, and now you can't unsee it. That means something. That means you're different. That means you're ready. That means you're capable of the crossing that most people aren't willing to make. You've been alone this whole time for a reason. Not because you're broken, not because you're defective, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you were being prepared, refined, forged in the fire of isolation into something harder, something sharper, something dangerous. Now you know what it is. Now you know what to do with it. Now you know where it leads. The only question left is whether you have the courage to follow it all the way to the end. Most don't. But you're not most people. That's why you're still here.